This lesson is a review of how to add and subtract integers. So adding and subtracting integers, a lot of you like to think about the rules. You like to memorize the rules, so this is a little chart that you can look at to help memorize the rules you need to know when you're adding and subtracting integers. First rule, hopefully you guys know this one. A positive plus a positive will always equal a positive. So when you add two positive numbers, just add the numbers and keep your answer positive. For instance, 3 plus 5 equals 8. 3 is positive, 5 is positive. It's going to equal 8, which is also positive. Positive plus a negative will equal a negative if the larger number has a negative sign on it. So what do I mean by that is, when you go to add a positive and negative number, you want to subtract the two numbers and then take the sign of the larger number. For instance, 3 plus negative 5. So I'm going to subtract 5 minus 3. 5 minus 3 is 2. Now when I go to determine if that 2 is going to be positive or negative, I'm going to look back at the sign. Well, 5 is the larger number. Whoops, there it is. 5 is the larger number. It has a negative sign on it, so my answer must be negative. A positive plus a negative will equal a positive number if the larger number is positive. So just like the last example, when you have a positive plus a negative, subtract the two numbers and then take the sign of the larger number. In this case, the larger number is not going to have a negative sign on it. For instance, negative 3 plus 5 equals 2. I'm going to start by subtracting 5 minus 3. 5 minus 3 is 2. 5 is positive, 3 is negative. Well, 5 is the bigger number, so my 2 will be positive. Negative plus a negative equals a negative. So all you need to know for this is to add the two numbers and tack on a negative sign to your answer. For instance, negative 3 plus negative 5. Both are negative, so just simply add 3 plus 5. That's 8. Since both of your numbers here were negative, your answer will also be negative. Here are some additional rules to be aware of. The first is the double negative rule. So sometimes, especially when you start distributing or simplifying and combining like terms, you will run into a situation like this where you're going to have this double negative right there. Okay, that double negative you want to take care of before you start evaluating, simplifying, whatever it is you're going to be doing. A double negative makes a positive. Make sure you realize there's no numbers in between here. It's just two minus signs butted up right next to each other. That is what the double negative rule is. So if you ever see that, go ahead and rewrite that as a plus sign and then evaluate. So 3 minus negative 5 becomes 3 plus 5. 3 plus 5 is 8. Another helpful hint that you should be aware of, and some of you like to do this, and that's completely fine by me, is every subtraction sign can be rewritten as a plus minus sign. So for instance, 6 minus 4. You could rewrite that as 6 plus negative 4. If the minus sign here intimidates you and you're not sure how to deal with it, always rewrite it and then you can follow the rules that were listed on the previous slide. So a 6 minus 4 becomes 6 plus negative 4. It becomes you're just adding a positive and a negative number. Negative 6 minus 4. You can rewrite that as negative 6 plus negative 4. And then it becomes familiar. You're just adding two negative numbers. 10 minus 3. You can rewrite as 10 plus negative 3. Once again, following the rules from the previous slide, it just becomes adding a positive and a negative number. So here are some more practice problems. Let's start evaluating. So this first one we have is negative 16 plus 19. So the first we want to figure out what we're doing here. Well, we're adding a negative and a positive number together. So when I add a negative and a positive, I need to subtract and then take the sign of the larger number. 19 minus 16 is 3. Is 16 or 19 larger? Well, 19 is a larger number. 19 is positive. so my 3 will be positive. Next one, negative 35 minus negative 12. Well, the first thing that I see here that throws me off is this double negative. Before I start subtracting or adding, I'm going to address that first. Remember, a double negative can be rewritten as a positive sign. That goes back to the previous slide. So negative 35 plus 12 is what I get after I address the double negative. Then it just becomes adding a negative and a positive number. So when I add a positive and a negative number, I need to subtract, then take the sign of the larger number. 35 minus 12 is 23. 35 has a negative on it, 12 does not. 35 is a larger number, so I need to take the sign of the 35. So I will have a negative 23. Negative 81 minus 121. So I'm going to focus on using the rules that were listed on that first slide. So I'm going to start by rewriting this minus sign here as a plus minus. If you do not want to do that, you do not have to. If you are comfortable just subtracting as is, by all means, feel free to do that. Like I said, I'm just going back to the rules on the first slide, so I'm going to rewrite it here. So now I'm adding 2 negative numbers. So when I add 2 negative numbers, I just simply add them and attach a negative to my answer. A negative plus a negative will always be a negative. Final answer is negative 202. Alright, so now it's time for you to try some on your own. Here I have 6 problems. Take a second to try to do these without a calculator by yourself and make sure you check your answers. You guys have to know your sign rules to be successful moving forward. So make sure you're practicing using the rules. You feel free to use a calculator to check your answer, but make sure you can do this without a calculator. If you have any issues, please come see me before or after school so we can work them out. Best of luck!